It's a rabbi's dream. 3 Sifrei Torah, 3 speeches. That's really what I would think about doing if I was speaking to you live. But since we're via video, I'll focus on one. We also have a really, really exciting Shabbos beyond the fact that it's Parashat Mishpatim and Rosh Chodesh and Shkalim. We have the opportunity to celebrate not 1, but 2 Bar Mitzvah celebrations in our shul, even in the midst of this crazy COVID pandemic. So firstly, Mazel Tov to Alicia Appleson, Mazel Tov, Alicia, to your parents, Mitch and Alana, Mazel Tov to Eitan Paris on your Bar Mitzvah, and to your parents, Andrew and Chava, and to all of your families, those who are going to be here and those who are celebrating from a distance. We are thrilled that you are able to celebrate your Bar Mitzvahs here in our shul, and really tremendous Yasher Koach to both of you in advance. You're going to have a very busy and hard day in a good way, but you're both reading all 3 Sifrei Torah and you're both davening Musaf, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, tall order. It's really a tremendous credit to both of you and to your abilities and to your families and to your sense of dedication and devotion. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And I want to speak for a moment about the modeling that both of you are getting to see from your parents this particular Shabbos. In case you haven't been keeping up with the news, in case you haven't been keeping up with the world and what's going on in our shul, this pandemic has led to us having all kinds of restrictions. We've been closed for a long period of time. We davened only outside for a long period of time. And now when we daven on Shabbos, yes, we have, Baruch Hashem, indoor options, but there's masking, there's social distancing, and frankly, there's the office nightmare of having to prepare every single week registration forms for people to sign up, because you can't just walk into shul anymore, pick up a sitter and a chumash, sit down and daven. No, you got to register in advance, and we have to make sure that there's enough seats. It's complicated, very complicated. It's tedious, it's time-consuming, and quite frankly, there's a tremendous limitation on seats and spaces in our shuls, in our shul. So to be able to actually have a bar mitzvah, tough. To be able to have 2 bar mitzvahs, very tough. And we couldn't have pulled it off if it weren't for the fact that the Appleson and Paris families were both dedicated and committed to celebrating these celebrations in our shuls and making sacrifices. And it's that concept of belonging to a community and making sacrifices that I'd like to talk to both of you about this Shabbos, or before the Shabbos, as the case may be. You're both going to read a small section of Rosh Chodesh. And as a part of that section, at the very end of the Rosh Chodesh Aliyah, that's going to be Shvi'i, you are going to read this pasuk: Usi'ir izim echad lechatas lashem al olas hatamid ye'aseh v'nisko. There is an obligation on Rosh Chodesh to bring 1 male goat as a carbon chatas, a sin offering, and this is in addition to all the other karbanos, to the olas hatamid, to the elevation offering that is brought, and it is brought together with its nesach, with its libation. It's a pasuk that, in the context of all of the psukim that are being read this Shabbos, it's easy to lose sight of it. It doesn't seem to be the most exciting of all the psukim to read about a carbon chatas, a sin offering. But there is one aspect of this carbon chatas that I would like to focus on. The language says, lichatas lashem, to the sin of Hashem. That's the way you would literally read it, to the sin to Hashem. And Rashi cites the Gemara in Chulin Daf Samach that asks, is it possible that Hashem did an Aveira, that he sinned Hashem is perfect. Hashem is kulo tov. How could it be that we have to bring a sin offering for what Hashem has done? And the Gemara says something astounding. And if the Gemara wouldn't have said it, we could not say such a thing. It would be absolute heresy. But the Gemara says, yes, Hashem says, Haviu alai chatas, bring a sin offering for me, shemiyatati es hayareach, because I diminished the moon. Rosh Chodesh is the new month. Word month obviously is connected to moon. And we know that the moon waxes and wanes, and when the new month begins, that begins to signify the process of the reappearance of the moon. That's why when we bench Rosh Chodesh last week, Shabbos Mevarchim, we recite the Molad, that's the reappearance or the rebirth of the moon. And so, it's a remarkable concept. What does it mean that Hashem diminished the moon? So, everyone, and I know Alicia and Eitan, you have studied the story of when Hashem created the world, when He created the universe. And first we read of how Hashem created the Shnei Ma'oros, the two luminaries. And then it speaks of a Ma'ara Gadol, the great luminary, and a Ma'ara Katan, the small luminary. And our sages are bothered, what happened? First they were the two orbs of light, and now one is great, one is big, and one somehow is small. What happened? And so the Medrash tells us famously that the moon complained. And the moon said, can't be. You can't have two kings sharing one crown. You can't have two balls of light controlling the skies. And so Hashem says to the moon, diminish yourself, make yourself small. And so the moon is forever smaller. What kind of a dialogue is this? What kind of a discussion is this? So when I was young, I understood that the moon complained. So Hashem wagged his finger and said, you're a bad boy. So since you complained, you have to be smaller. The sun will be big and you'll be small. But there is something more profound taking place over here. The moon wasn't coming to Hashem with petty jealousy and saying, it's not fair. I want the sky all to myself. That's not what the moon was saying. The moon was saying, God, why did you create a world in which there's competition, in which there's struggle? We struggle to get up in the morning. We struggle to make a living. Unfortunately, sometimes people struggle. Communities struggle. Nation states struggle. We see plenty of struggling. We see plenty of fighting. It's not a Shabbos topic. And that's what the moon came to Hashem and said, why does the world have to have so much struggle and so much competition? It was a valid question. Hashem did not punish the moon. Hashem didn't say, bad moon, become smaller. What Hashem said was as follows. If there wasn't struggle, if we didn't have to work for it, it would be meaningless. Simply for Hashem to put us in the Olam HaNeshamos, in the world of souls, if we didn't have to overcome our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, if we were all righteous all the time, if everybody got along all the time, life wouldn't be a challenge. It would be, in the language of the Kabbalists, Nahama de Sufa would be the bread of shame. So yes, we have choices, we have options, and those challenges involve struggles. But it's how we manage them. And so Hashem said, I want to show you something. You can make yourself smaller. In other words, you have the capacity to make space for the sun. The sun will rule during the day, you'll rule at night. You can each have your own space and your own time. This is what Hashem told the moon. And so while Hashem feels kaviyachol, a measure of guilt, that he felt the need to diminish the moon, it's necessary. Elisha and Eitan, most people would have said, for us to pull off one bar mitzvah in these circumstances would be very challenging. To pull off two, nigh impossible. But it's because your parents and your families learned the lesson of the moon and the sun, of the importance to make space for others, that we are able to celebrate two special simchas in our shul. What a powerful lesson. What a message to both of you in life, to accommodate others, to think about others, to be sensitive to the needs of others. It is a tremendous example of how families and of how a community can get along, can work together for a greater good. We always say, Oseh shalom b'mromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. The one who makes peace in the heavens, namely the one God who showed that there can be peace between the sun and the moon. Let him make peace for us here on earth. But it starts when we choose to do so. And hopefully you have learned these wonderful lessons, and one day, just as there is peace in heaven, we will merit to see the peace here down on earth. May it come speedily in our days. Mazel tov, mazel tov.